At 81, Robert De Niro is still rewriting the script of his own life. The man who once stared into the mirror and snarled, "You talking to me?" a line that defined a generation, now cradles a newborn child in his arms. It is an image that feels almost impossible. The ferocious Travis Bickle, the raging Jake LaMotta, transformed into a soft-spoken father once again, decades after most men his age have stepped quietly into retirement. But De Niro has never done anything quietly. From the gritty streets of New York where he grew up to the golden stage of the Oscars, his life has been a collision of brilliance and chaos. Masterpieces on screen, battles behind the curtain. Fame gave him applause, power, and immortality in cinema. Yet it also brought broken marriages, courtroom struggles, and the restless search for something real beyond the lights. So how does a man who has already lived 9 cinematic lives find the strength to begin again at nearly 80? And is this new chapter a victory lap, or the final act of a fighter who never learned to stop? Robert Anthony De Niro Jr. was born in Greenwich Village, New York, in 1943, the only child of 2 artists. His father, Robert De Niro Sr., was a painter known for his abstract expressionism. His mother, Virginia Admiral, a poet and painter. But their marriage dissolved early, leaving young Robert to be raised mostly by his mother in a modest Manhattan apartment. He was shy, nicknamed Bobby Milk by neighborhood kids for his pale complexion. Yet beneath the quiet exterior was a boy captivated by the magic of the movies. At 16, De Niro dropped out of high school to pursue acting, enrolling in classes with legendary teachers Stella Adler and Lee Strasberg. Their method acting approach, digging into emotion, memory, and truth, shaped his craft for life. He appeared in small off-Broadway productions, often unnoticed, but already obsessively dedicated. He studied mannerisms, voices, and the psychology of every role. Then came destiny, meeting Martin Scorsese in the late 1960s. Their creative bond would soon redefine American cinema. No one in those cramped rehearsal rooms could have imagined that this quiet boy from New York would become the face of raw, uncompromising storytelling on the world stage. Robert De Niro's rise to stardom was not sudden, but when it came, it shook Hollywood. His breakthrough arrived with Mean Streets, 1973, the gritty collaboration with Martin Scorsese that revealed his raw, unpredictable energy. But it was The Godfather Part 2 in 1974 that cemented his place in cinema history. As young Vito Corleone, De Niro delivered a performance so haunting and meticulous, learning Sicilian dialect for authenticity, that it earned him his first Academy Award. 2 years later, he became Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. The lonely cabbie's descent into violence captured America's fractured soul in the aftermath of Vietnam. De Niro's improvised line, "You talking to me?" echoed through pop culture, turning him into an icon of alienation and rebellion. Then came Raging Bull, 1980, where his transformation into Jake LaMotta, including gaining 60 pounds, showed a level of commitment few actors would ever dare. The Oscar he received confirmed him as one of the finest actors of his generation. Audiences adored him. Directors fought to work with him. In the 1970s and 80s, De Niro was not just a star. He was the embodiment of American cinema's grit and truth. Yet fame always carried a darker shadow. Behind the iconic roles and the thunder of applause, Robert De Niro's personal life unfolded with as much intensity as his films. He married actress Diane Abbott in 1976, and together they had a son, Raphael, while De Niro also adopted Abbott's daughter, Draina. For a time, family seemed like a safe harbor, but Hollywood's relentless demands and his own restless spirit pulled him away. The marriage ended in divorce by the late 1980s. De Niro found love again with model and actress Toukie Smith, with whom he fathered twin sons through surrogacy. Later, he married Grace Hightower in 1997, a union that lasted over 2 decades, producing 2 more children. But their relationship was marked by turbulence, separations, reconciliations, and eventually a highly publicized divorce filled with courtroom disputes over money and custody. Even as he juggled fatherhood, De Niro guarded his private life fiercely, rarely speaking about family in public. To his children, he was often described as both demanding and protective, a man who expected discipline but offered deep loyalty. And then, in 2023, at nearly 80, he welcomed yet another daughter, proving that his story as a father was still being written. For all his triumphs on screen, Robert De Niro's life off-screen was marked by turbulence and strain. By the 2000s, critics argued his career had lost its edge, pointing to a string of lighter comedies and uneven projects that seemed far from the intensity of Raging Bull or Taxi Driver. Some accused him of chasing paychecks rather than chasing art, a painful critique for a man once hailed as the greatest actor of his generation. Financial troubles added to the weight. In his divorce battle with Grace Hightower, De Niro claimed mounting debts and dwindling cash flow despite decades of box office success. Lawsuits followed, including a bitter dispute with a former employee of his production company. Headlines painted him not as the untouchable legend, but as an aging actor fighting to keep his fortune and reputation intact. The once celebrated face of gritty cinema was suddenly being photographed outside courtrooms, his expressions weary, his shoulders heavy. For fans who remembered the fiery young man pointing a gun into the mirror, it was a sobering reminder that even icons can be brought down by time, money, and the fragility of human relationships. In his later years, Robert De Niro's life began to resemble the very films that made him famous, an uneasy blend of triumph and vulnerability. One moment stands out like a cinematic climax, the image of De Niro, frail yet unbroken, quietly speaking about fatherhood after the birth of his daughter in 2023. At 79, while most men his age were reflecting on the past, he was beginning again, holding a newborn in his arms. The contrast was striking. This was the same man who once played unhinged loners and raging boxers, now whispering gently to a child who would know him only as an elderly father. The cameras captured more than just a headline. They revealed a man who refused to stop living, even when life had thrown every challenge at him: failed marriages, public battles, fading youth. In that moment, De Niro seemed stripped of all roles, no longer Travis Bickle or Jake LaMotta, but simply a man searching for meaning in the quiet beats of fatherhood. It was not applause or awards that defined him then, but the tender silence of holding new life. And perhaps that was his most powerful performance of all. What remains of Robert De Niro's journey is more than just a collection of films. It is a living legacy, etched into the fabric of cinema. His performances in Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and Goodfellas are not just movies. They are cultural landmarks, still studied by actors and directors around the world. He pushed the boundaries of method acting, proving that absolute immersion could transform storytelling, leaving behind a standard that few have ever matched. Yet his influence goes beyond the screen. He co-founded the Tribeca Film Festival in 2002, bringing life back to Lower Manhattan after the devastation of 9/11 and supporting independent voices that might otherwise have been lost. For many, this act alone secured his place as more than just an actor, but as a guardian of cinema's future. And for audiences, his legacy is deeply personal. For some, he will always be the lonely cabbie whispering into a mirror. For others, the bruised boxer refusing to quit. But for those who have followed his story, De Niro's true mark is resilience. The reminder that even legends stumble, yet keep moving forward. So how will you remember him? As an actor, a fighter, or a father? Robert De Niro's life at 81 is proof that the human story is never finished, not even for legends. He has known the intoxicating roar of standing ovations and the crushing silence of courtroom battles. He has been celebrated as the greatest actor of his generation and criticized as a man who lost his edge. And yet, through every high and low, he remains a fighter. The newborn in his arms at nearly 80 is not just a child. It is a symbol of his refusal to surrender to time, to cynicism, to the idea that the final curtain has already fallen. For audiences who grew up with his films, De Niro is a mirror of endurance. His journey reminds us that greatness is not about perfection, but about persistence. The scars of failure, the cracks of age, the shadows of regret, none of these have dimmed the fire that once lit up Taxi Driver's screen. If anything, they have made him more human. Perhaps that is his greatest role. Not the gangster, not the boxer, but the man who shows us how to keep living. If his story touched you, share your memories of De Niro below. And don't forget to subscribe for more Untold Hollywood stories.